Steven Spielberg's World War II film Saving Private Ryan was inspired by the real-life account of Sergeant Fritz Niland. Like Matt Damon's character, Private James Ryan, Sergeant Niland had three older brothers who were presumably all killed in action. Consistent with the Ryan family in the film, Mrs. Niland received 3 telegrams from the War Department almost all at once, informing her that her sons Edward, Preston, and Robert had been killed in the war. Preston and Robert had been killed at Normandy. Edward was shot down over Burma and declared dead. Only later was it discovered that he had parachuted into the jungles and had been in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. Ultimately, Edward would survive the war. In the movie, Matt Damon's character's brothers are all killed in action. In Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks' character, Captain John H. Miller, is tasked with leading a mission to find Private James Ryan and get him home to his family. In the process, Captain Miller's unit repeatedly risks their lives and suffers several casualties. However, the whole mission in the movie is fictional, including the climactic Battle of Ramelle, which takes place after they locate Private Ryan, and he argues with him that he wants to stay and help his unit hold a bridge in the town. Even the town itself is fictional. There is no Ramelle, France. In the case of Sergeant Fritz Niland, whose story inspired Saving Private Ryan, he wasn't found by a captain who led a mission to track him down. Tom Hanks' character, Captain John Miller, who eventually reveals to his men that he was a school teacher back home, is fictional. In real life, Sergeant Fritz Niland was told he was going home by Father Francis L. Sampson, the chaplain of Niland's regiment, the 501st. At the time, Niland had been searching for his brother in the 82nd Airborne Division, and unlike what's seen in the movie, the Army didn't have to track Niland down because Niland's location was known. There was no mission undertaken to find him, and in reality, such a mission likely would have never been sanctioned given its tactical insignificance and expense of men and resources. Making the mission in the movie even more unrealistic is the fact that Tom Hanks and his men weren't even given a precise location to look for Private Ryan, and if they hadn't gotten lucky and encountered a soldier who knew where he might be, they could have feasibly wandered around aimlessly for the rest of the war. Like Matt Damon's character, Private James Ryan, Sergeant Fritz Niland had been separated from his regiment for a time after his plane was hit by enemy fire and he had to parachute miles from his target. With the help of the French resistance, he rejoined his regiment after spending 9 days behind enemy lines. After the chaplain of Fritz's regiment, Father Francis L. Sampson, learned that all 3 of Fritz's brothers were thought to have been killed in action, he contacted the War Department and started the necessary paperwork to have Fritz sent home. Again, similar to Matt Damon's Private Ryan in the movie, Fritz Niland did at first refuse the order to leave his unit and go home. He expressed that he wanted to keep fighting. "I'm staying here with the boys," he reportedly replied. He didn't want special treatment, and he had no intention of deserting his brothers in arms. Father Samson wouldn't budge, telling him, "You can take that up with General Eisenhower or the president, but you're going home." Fritz didn't have the opportunity to change the Army's mind, and he couldn't just disobey a direct order, so he went home. Unlike Matt Damon's character, he didn't stick around to partake in a battle after receiving the order. Father Samson did help Fritz search for his brother Robert's grave, driving him from cemetery to cemetery. In the process, Father Samson discovered the grave of Preston Niland, one of Fritz's other brothers. Unbeknownst to Fritz, Preston had lost his life on Utah Beach a day after Robert died. They soon found Robert's grave at a nearby cemetery. Now, if you've never heard of Father Francis Leon Sampson, the man who found Sergeant Fritz Niland, Father Samson's life is itself worthy of a film. He's certainly more intriguing than Tom Hanks' character, Captain Miller, the man charged with locating Private Ryan in the movie. Father Samson was a 1937 Notre Dame graduate who volunteered to become an airborne chaplain, not knowing that he would be expected to jump from airplanes. As a member of the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division, 32-year-old Father Samson parachuted behind enemy lines on D-Day as part of Sergeant Fritz Niland's regiment. Father Samson landed in a river, cut off his gear, and found shelter in a French farmhouse where critically injured servicemen were being given medical attention. As the farmhouse was about to be overrun by German forces, Father Samson volunteered to stay behind with the injured men. He was captured by German troops and put up against the wall. Believing he was about to be executed, he kept praying aloud the Catholic mealtime blessing, "Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive." A Catholic German soldier who recognized the blessing and realized he was a priest decided to spare his life. He was allowed to go to an aid station where he protected the wounded from a relentless artillery bombardment. Father Francis L. Sampson was nominated for the Medal of Honor for his role in caring for and evacuating these soldiers, and he was given the Army's second highest award for valor, the Distinguished Service Cross. Father Francis L. Sampson's story doesn't end there. Following his efforts to get Sergeant Fritz Niland home to his family, Father Samson once again parachuted behind enemy lines, this time in Holland. He was eventually captured at the Battle of the Bulge and sent to a German prison camp. On his way to the camp, he was confined to a crowded boxcar where he survived by eating snow that the men scraped from the top of the train car. A fellow prisoner who was held in Stalag 2A with Father Samson commented, "Father Samson's misfortune in being captured turned out to be a blessing for the men he served in Stalag 2A. God knew he was sorely needed there." Father Francis L. Sampson went on to serve in both the Korean and Vietnam Wars. After retiring to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, he died of cancer there in January 1996 at age 83, 2.5 years before the release of Saving Private Ryan. Perhaps someday we'll get to see Francis L. Sampson's story told on the big screen, because his service is more than worthy of that.